And circling back to our top story tonight, China's new foreign minister warning the United States against taking a reckless gamble that could plunge the world's top two economies into conflict. Now, for more on the Chinese foreign minister Qin Gang's remarks, Einar Tangen joins us now. He's in Beijing. He is a senior fellow at the Taihe Institute and also chairman of Asia Narratives. Hello to you, Mr. Tangen. Tough talk for the United States from Qin Gang, saying Washington's view of China, it's distorted, that it's left the rational path as well. What does this signal, though, about China's view of Beijing's relationship with Washington as it stands?
Well, at this time, Qin Gang is bringing his own style. It's very blunt, very measured. He wasn't bombastic. This wasn't some American politician speech. He simply said what everybody knew, that the U.S. is trying to encircle, contain China, that its moves are not friendly, and that right now, especially on Taiwan, if the U.S. persists in arming and relations in violation of the three communiques that were signed in the late 70s and early 80s, recognizing that there was only one China, that this would, in fact, lead to conflict. He, basically was a very realistic assessment of what the U.S. has done over the years to China, including talking about the balloon episode, which he said was just a force majeure, a balloon, a scientific one that went over the United States, and the U.S. overreacted, not only by shooting it down, but three more that it didn't even know anything about.
His words, a realistic assessment, as you've put it, but Qin Gang also took aim at the United States for not just one, but a series of global problems. Does that sit well with you?
Well, I think you have to look at the facts. I mean, the United States has been involved in 81% of all conflicts since World War II. The U.S. is the one that is preventing the WTO from functioning by refusing to allow appellate judges to be appointed, without whom there can be no final adjudication, and therefore it doesn't work. It's the U.S. who's walked away from, the Iran nuclear deal, also the Paris Climate Accord, Kyoto. The U.S. is not a reliable partner. I mean, in everything, business, personal relationships, and diplomacy, you have to have trust. You have to have a belief that somebody says they're going to do something, they're going to do it, regardless of how the politics change. And at this juncture, the U.S. is mired in internal politics and division. They can't control their own country, and yet they seem to be very keen to tell everyone else what to do. China's just had enough. They believe that the American people are good, as he himself said, but that Washington is, in essence, basically isolated and in its own bubble.
I mean, to be fair, this was a policy speech meant for a domestic audience. America is used to that as well in its foreign policy speeches. But the foreign minister talked about the United States, about the risk of it not hitting the brakes, saying that if it continued to do this, to speed down this supposedly wrong path, there would be conflict, confrontation. And not only that, Qin Gang's words, he used the terms catastrophic consequences. He spoke about the risks to humanity, no less. I mean, hardly a thinly veiled threat at the potential for perhaps even nuclear conflict, Mr. Tangen. How far did his choice of words reflect the depth of the challenges that China truly is experiencing right now with what you referenced earlier, the fact that it has been encircled, that it has been contained, that it wants the United States to stop what it calls the suppression of Beijing?
Yes, I mean, they do feel it. I mean, shortly afterwards, his message was reinforced by Xi Jinping and his remarks, where he started talking and saying to Chinese private businesses, look, we have to stand together. Nationalism is on the rise. These are all things that are very, very dangerous. I mean, Qin Gang held up a copy of the Chinese Constitution, in which Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. This was recognized before by the entire world. That's why Taiwan is not part of the UN. So this backtracking and revisionism by the U.S. can only be seen as a provocation. as a way of trying to draw China out. Now, understandably, they've used Xinjiang, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and even Tibet. But the issue here is with Taiwan is that, this is a red line. And unfortunately, the concern is that the U.S. will keep pressing until it becomes too late. I mean, great wars are started not by deliberately in most cases, but by accident, by trying to avoid war. China is just trying to make a very strong statement to Washington that you're playing with fire here. It is time to put down these kind of Cold War weapons that you're using to divert attention from your domestic ills and start dealing with climate change, the debt problem, inequality, all the things that the world has to do together, and especially getting rid of the conflict in Ukraine.
We can only hope that rational and cooler heads prevail. Mr. Tangen, thank you very much for that analysis. Einar Tangen there, Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asia Narratives.